Okay, great. So I'm going to invite you guys to come and find your way onto your mat. I know some of you have babies with you, some of you do not, so we'll work with that. I have a little pretend baby pillow that I'll be using to model some stuff to try. But if you can, I'll get you to come and lay on your back. If you can't do that and you need to be seated, that's fine. You can just follow along with the cues. And then if you have a prop, so one block is great. You could do it flat or on its second highest height. I'm going to do 2 blocks. You could do a couch cushion or a towel, just any kind of elevation underneath the back of your hips. So you're going to lift your bum up and settle your hips onto your prop. And if it feels too high, choose something lower. This should be totally painless in the lower back. You can also do this just bum on the ground. You don't have to have a prop here, okay? You can widen your feet a little bit and let the knees fall together or just keep them straight. Hands could be on the belly or out to the sides. Some of you might have some kind of restorative yoga props with you. If you want to put something over your eyes, you could do that, or a blanket behind your neck, for example. And I just want you to find that place where you feel like your hips are elevated, but your back is long. It's not really a back bend. And you can breathe into your belly. And if you're sitting up and you're just working with the baby, that's perfect. Okay, we talked a little bit about this, but I just want to say again, a big part of postpartum, especially if you have a younger child and you're with them a lot, this is the practice, is being with them, right? And kind of fitting in what you can and maybe letting go a little bit of the practice being this fully, deeply meditative, hour and a half long, super intense, sweaty practice. It doesn't have to be that at all. Part of the practice might be changing a diaper or attending to a baby that's just woken up or whatever it is. That doesn't have to be like an interruption. I'm going to encourage you to think of that as that's just what your practice is right now, and that's perfect, okay? So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead and do that. And take a few deep breaths. I encourage you to inhale through your nose. And then think of your exhale as a release of effort. So your body relaxes and the exhale just kind of falls out. So you're not really directing that exhale, you're allowing it to leave. And just to the degree that you can, try to relax your belly and your pelvic floor. So I'd like to start each of our practices with a little bit of restorative breathing. And that's because one of the things that can happen after giving birth, whether or being pregnant, whether C-section or vaginal, is the pelvic floor has a reaction. We are only consciously in control of 50% of our pelvic floor function. So if we're stressed and anxious, the pelvic floor can't fully release unless, like with sort of as many exercises as we're doing, if we're not actually calming the nervous system, it won't completely release. If the pelvic floor can't completely release, we can't strengthen it either, okay? Completely, we can do some. So for me, I know calming the nervous system with a young child has been really a different challenge than it was before. I'm sure that some of you can relate to that. But I'm just going to encourage you now to be with your breath. Bring your awareness, if you can, to your pelvic floor, so that region around the genitals. And just see if you can, what you notice there. So it might be tension, there might be movement, it might feel quite soft to you. And I'm in this shape here because we've just taken a lot of pressure off the pelvic floor, so it can actually release a little bit more because it's not holding anything up right now. If prolapse is one of the things that's going on for you, this is quite helpful, okay? So filling the belly on the inhale, and the exhale is just a release of effort. And then notice your jaw. Jaw and pelvic floor have an intimate relationship. They're usually doing the same thing, either tight together or released together. So see if you can soften your jaw a bit. If you want to stretch your jaw or yawn, you could do that, or stick your tongue out. And then just see if you notice anything different in the pelvic floor. And you might also notice that letting go is a challenge, especially if baby is nearby or you're aware that baby's in the next room, or you're thinking about your kid in whatever way. There can be this holding on that we do, this unwillingness to let go because we have a lot of responsibility, right? And that might feel really new. So just take a moment to notice if you feel yourself resisting letting go a little bit, and just honor that. Okay, honor that that's how you're feeling, and that's okay. That's where you're at right now. And it feels that way for a reason. There's time. And we'll take a couple more breaths here. Feel free to stay as long as you need to. Okay. And then we'll begin to straighten out the right leg. So on that support, still on that support if you've got it there, straighten the right leg, flex the foot. Okay, and just breathe down low into that right half of the abdominals. Okay, if you'd like, you could put a hand sort of over your womb, especially if you have a C-section scar there. If it's comfortable for you, you can place your hand there and just see if you can breathe into that place. And you can stay or see what it feels like to lift up your left knee, hold on to it with your left hand or both hands, and just hug it a little bit wide. Keep pressing your right heel forward and breathing into your belly. So there's sort of a fascial stretch that you can get kind of into the guts here. And one of the things that I certainly felt, I don't know about you guys, but my organs were not in the same place as they were before the baby. And so there's been a reorganizing sort of a feeling that's been happening in the gut. And when I can really breathe in there and work with that, I'm allowing the organs to kind of find their way back, however they want to do that. Okay, and then we'll switch sides when you're ready. So place that left foot down, right foot down, maybe pause for a beat just to feel. And then stretch out your left leg, flex the foot, press forward through the heel. So you might feel top of your thigh a little bit here, kind of into the inner groin psoas region. And if you'd like, you could put a hand just over your womb. And just breathing into that place. I find energetically, for a lot of us, there's something different around the womb area. So it might feel like really beautiful. It might feel like there's still some healing that needs to be done there, but just letting that be a place energetically that you're honoring. You can pick up your right knee if you'd like and give it a little hug, sort of slightly wide towards the shoulder. Keep breathing into your belly. This should still be painless in the back. Lower down a bit if there's any discomfort here. And I just want you to see if you can notice on your exhale, the belly kind of drawing back and up. So it's like stretching. This might feel really weird. If it feels really weird, that's okay. Shouldn't be painful, but a bit strange is normal. Okay, and then go ahead and place that foot down, left foot as well, maybe pause for a beat. And then we can lift the props up and move them off to the side. And then just take a moment. So you might want to extend your legs out long. You could also hug your knees into your chest and give yourself a little rock from side to side. Okay, and then holding a knee in each hand. This one is a bit weird to explain, so feel free to take a look if you're not sure what I'm talking about. It's very simple, but it's just a weird one to explain. So we're going to separate the knees apart and just allow them to move a little bit forward, so away from your face. And then we're just going to bring them back in. So we're kind of rocking the knees slightly forward and back and wide. So stretching the inner thighs can be really helpful for a tight pelvic floor. And again, we're just trying to breathe down into the belly. This should feel like a little bit of a massage. It took me a little while before I could do this shape after giving birth, because this is pretty much how I gave birth, and it was a little bit much for me to be in this shape for a while. So I've had to just sort of gently touch in on it a little bit and allow myself to get kind of used to it. And you might notice that there are certain shapes in your body that bring up certain things. We just want to really go into that nice and slow and gentle. Okay, so you can stay there. If you'd like to try a happy baby, you can send the soles of the feet to the sky, holding on to the ankles, the feet, the shins, whatever is comfortable, and just rock a little from side to side. So this is still groin opening, but it's just a little bit of a different shape. This is quite a nice one for the lower back too. And then release your legs, send the legs and the arms up to the sky, and you can give the ankles and the wrists a little circle. One thing that I have found postpartum is my wrists actually have been a little more sensitive than they were before. And there's, we can talk more about this later, but there's some weird stuff that happens down the arms too when we're doing a lot of carrying and feeding and all of that kind of stuff, hunching over our babies. Okay, so let's bring our feet to the floor. And we're going to start working with a little bit of pelvic floor strengthening and core work here as well. If you have a baby that likes to be involved, you can sit that baby right here if that's comfortable for you. Okay, depending on, of course, the age and whether or not they're willing to do that and want to be involved. But you can actually have baby kind of on you for the core work. I find Grant quite likes to do that with me. Okay, so you might be working with that. You might be able to have your hands on your belly so that you can just kind of focus a little bit here. Okay, we're gonna do some pelvic tilts. So as you inhale, you're gonna tilt your pelvis forward and try to relax your pelvic floor. That might be harder with the baby on you, that's okay. As you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, flatten your back to the mat, and imagine you're scooping your belly button up towards your heart. Okay, inhale, try to relax pelvic floor. One of the images I like for pelvic floor is a jellyfish. So it's kind of opening to draw the water in, and then it's drawing in and up in order to propel the water away. The thing that can be confusing about this is that there's not a pushing down or a bearing down with this pelvic floor contraction. It's really a gathering in. Okay, so another way that you could think about that is like a flower blossoming and then curling in on itself at night. Okay, there are lots of different images that are used for this one. A really common one is you're trying to pick up a blueberry with your vagina and draw it up behind your heart. Okay, so you may or may not, some of you are experts with pelvic floor at this point. Some of you might be new to it, so just notice how it's feeling. If it feels easy to engage, if it feels hard, if you're a little disconnected from it, all of those things are okay. Just notice what's going on. Try to keep breathing. Okay, and then relax your back so you're just nice and neutral. And let's see if we can take a little bit of a faster contract and release for the pelvic floor. So not with the breath. Okay, so this is a little bit of a different kind of a training and it may or may not work for you. But just see if you can. So I'm sort of showing with my hand my pace, but you don't have to do it that fast or that slow. Just see if you can take a few release, contract, release, contract, release, contract, and then relax. Take a couple deep breaths. Knees could fall together or apart. Just see if you can really soften that pelvic floor. Okay. Place your feet on the floor again if they've wandered. We're going to start with this is my favorite rehabilitative core exercise. It's really effective. So I'd love for you, if you can, if you're not holding a baby, to put your middle fingers on your hip points and your thumbs on your rib cage. Inhale. And as you exhale, draw that blueberry in and up, or whatever image works for you. And imagine that you're gathering these 4 points towards each other, keeping the spine neutral, okay? And then as you next inhale, lift up your right foot. And as you exhale, put it back down. Okay, inhale the left foot up. And as you exhale, put it back down. So just nice and slow, okay, and gentle. And we're trying to keep the 4 points pretty steady. So we just don't want to kind of be moving them around. And you want to try to keep your pelvic floor engaged through this exercise if you can. And what this does is it helps to activate the transverse abdominis. So if you have diastasis, which apparently everyone does during pregnancy, there is some separation of the abdominal muscles, and that it's normal for that to stick around for a while. I do still have a little bit around my belly button, but this is a really useful exercise for just kind of gathering everything back together. And this is super helpful for supporting the lower back as well. So keep going if you're comfortable, take a rest if you need a rest. If you want to ramp it up just a little bit, you can interlace your fingers around behind the back of your head and just add your upper abdominals. Okay, so you're lifting your shoulder blades up a little bit. Yeah. And you can even look down at your belly and you want to really see that the belly is scooping back and up and it's not popping forward. Yeah. Let's just take a couple more breaths. Last one, just even on the two sides. And then relax. I like to take soles of the feet together, knees open wide. And again, focus on softening, relaxing your pelvic floor. Beautiful. And you might want to take a nice big stretch here, reaching the arms up over the head, legs out long. And then let's roll over and come to our hands and our knees. Okay, so one of my favorite ways to get my practice in is just by rolling around on the floor with the baby. And cat and cow is one that you can do like anytime with the baby, and it's so helpful for so many things. Most of you know this one. If you've got a little guy or a girl that wants to hang out with you, you can put the baby right between your hands. And my baby was quite entertained by this when he was little. Now he just crawls away. But if your baby's little enough, this is a great place to put them because you can tickle them with your hair if you have long enough hair, and they think that's quite funny. So you can inhale into a little bit of a back bend shape, and then you can exhale and curl belly in, and just be aware of that pelvic floor core there. Think of stretching as you inhale, shoulders slide down the back, and as you exhale, spreading the back and drawing in the belly. Okay. You're welcome to be on your fists for this one if hands not comfortable. You're welcome also to move from side to side or make circles. Okay, and here's a little exercise that we can try that you might quite like. This is nice for the core too, so be gentle, especially if you are rehabilitating your core. You might not want to go too far with this one, that's okay. So you can walk your hands forward or your knees back a little bit. Bring your hips towards your heels, and then draw your belly in, round your spine, bring your shoulders over your wrists. So you're just in a little half a plank here, okay? And then you can pull forward slightly, opening your chest. Bring your hips back to your heels. Gather belly in. So really think of drawing in through the core like we talked about. There's a little pause here in this sort of half plank, just working with a little bit of that core strength. And you want to keep the core gently engaged as you open up here. And you don't have to go too deep into that. It should all feel good. Okay, and here's a fun one that the baby might find really entertaining. And it's actually pretty good for strengthening too. So next time you come forward, pause in that little half plank, hug the shoulders onto the back, look forward, and then you can do a little mini push-up. So that might just be a slight bend for the elbows. You might come a little bit farther down, and if baby's there and you have the strength, you can give a little kiss if you want, okay? And then stretch back. So rounding forward, finding that little bit of core work in your half plank, and then a little mini push-up as deep as you want to go, as deep as is comfortable for you, okay? Which might be not at all, and that's fine too. And try to keep the shoulders really on the back as you're doing that. Just one more. Good, and then come into child's pose. And if you've got baby there, you can just kind of tickle or have your hands on baby as you're stretching back. If not, you can have your arms out extended, or you might bring the palms together and take the thumbs to the back of the neck, which I find is so nice. Just the postpartum shoulders, you guys, upper back, it's so intense. I find a lot of shoulder opening is really nice and helpful for me. So even just here is kind of a nice place to be. And we get to breathe into the back, into the upper body. Okay, and then let's gently release that. And then come up to your hands and your knees again. So the baby will get in the way if you have a little person right here for this one. So you might just move them off a little bit or just kind of see what works for you. So I'm actually going to show this one backwards initially. So we're going to take the left arm open to the sky. So try to take a nice big opening through the chest and then thread the arm underneath your body, come onto your outer shoulder. You can lay the side of your face on the ground, take your right fingertips off the mat, press the back of the left hand down, and then push forward with the right hand. So you're kind of leaning into the upper back and breathe into that upper back. Good, and then place the hand beside your face, gently open up. Try to squeeze the shoulder blades together if you can. And then place the hand on the mat and switch sides. Right arm opens, try to get that nice open chest if you can. Thread the arm under, come onto your temple. Fingertips come just off the mat, press the back of the right hand down. And the left hand, it's like you're trying to push the floor forward. So you're actually leaning back into your upper back a little bit. Good, and then hand beside the face. Reach all the way up again, try to squeeze those shoulder blades together. And then gently release the hands back down onto the mat. You can return to that cat and cow and just notice if anything feels different for your shoulders and your back. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, let's come to seated. And if you have a little low prop to sit on, feel free to take that. We're just going to do a little bit more for the neck and shoulders here. And then we'll do some other stuff. Okay. So just taking a nice, comfortable cross-legged seat. If your legs need to be extended, that's fine. We're just going to take a simple twist. So I'll mirror you for this a little bit. So take your left fingertips behind you. Right hand across to whatever you can hold, which might be shin, it might be thigh or knee. Pull the shoulders down the back, lift your heart up as you slide the shoulders down and look gently behind you. Tuck the chin in, and then bring your left ear over towards your left shoulder. And you can tug gently on the right hand to help to pull that shoulder blade down so you get a really nice stretch along the side of the neck. Bring your head back to neutral, gently turn through center, and we'll come to the other side. So right hand around behind you, left hand across. Hug the shoulders down the back, lifting the heart and gently turning. So the twist is one part of this, but then really hug the shoulders down, tuck the chin in a little bit, and bring the right ear down towards the right shoulder. And there's a little resistance of the left hand into the knee to help pull the shoulder down so that you can actually stretch this, this side of your neck here. Okay, bring your head back through center. Turn to the front. You can take your hands onto your knees and just take a little circle of your shoulders. Okay, I want to do a little bit of shoulder therapy here. We won't do it too long, but there are certain exercises I want to kind of return to each week so that we can really build some strength with them. So if you have a strap, a dowel, a belt, a scarf, a t-shirt, something you can pull on, please grab that. A blanket would work, a towel would work, just anything that you can kind of pull. And you're going to take that prop just to the level of your forehead with your palms facing towards you, elbows underneath your wrists. Yeah. Draw the shoulders down the back, pull the prop apart as you hug the elbows underneath your wrists. And then we're just going to lift on the inhale and lower on the exhale. Yeah. So I'm just going to come check in. Yeah. Good. So really hug those shoulders in. It might feel kind of weird or hard. And if you don't have anything, just do the motion. Okay. And just kind of imagine. So pulling the shoulders onto the back, imagine pulling the hands apart and hugging the elbows in. So this is a physiotherapy exercise. I think of it as shoulder core. So we're getting all those little muscles in the shoulders that help to keep them in the right spot. We'll just take a couple more of those. Nice. And then let's release that. You can set your prop to the side, hands in your lap, and just notice where your shoulders are sitting, how that exercise felt for you. Yeah, and then reach your arms up to the sky. And as you exhale, bend your elbows into kind of a cactus shape. Good. And then inhale again. And exhale to a cactus shape. Good. Okay. Again, inhale, cactus shape. And this time, draw the elbows a little lower down and imagine that you're trying to touch the elbow tips behind you. And just notice what happens. Okay. Reach the arms up. And again, bend the elbows and try to touch the elbow tips around behind you. So we're activating the muscles around the bottoms of the shoulder blades. Okay. And when we do that, the tops of the shoulders release. Good. Let's do one more. And this time hold. And just really think about the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, the elbows drawing together, and then down your back. And the release is here. You might not be feeling it. It's not necessarily a stretch, but this muscle lets go. And then relax your hands. Notice how that feels. And then take your hands behind your back. You can interlace the fingers, hook the thumbs, or you can use that prop again if you want. Hug the elbows together, press them down the back, and open your chest. So a lot of the time when we have pain in the upper back, it's because the chest has been so tightened that these muscles are shortening and it's causing the back muscles to to overstretch. So when we open the chest, we're actually releasing the upper back too. Beautiful. Okay, let's release that. You can give your hands a little shake. So I'm going to show you something now that's a little subtler, and it's something that I want to return to each week as well. Some of you might know this already. It's relatively subtle, so we'll talk about it and we'll work on it throughout our practice. So from a yoga perspective, this is called Uddiyana Bandha, or Nali Kriya is related. From a physiotherapy perspective, it's hypopresses. So it's essentially using the breath to lift everything up in the abdomen so that we release pressure on the pelvic floor. And it can be really effective, especially if part of the issue is tension, because it's not a contraction of the pelvic floor, it's something else. So I'm actually just come a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so part of what this is really a diaphragmatic breath. So I'm going to encourage you to bring your hands to your ribs with just the fingertips touching right here. Okay, and then as you inhale, think about lifting the ribs up and seeing if you can get the fingertips to separate just by opening the ribs. So I'll show you what that looks like for me. So the diaphragm is really kind of ballooning up and out. Inhale. Good. So we're already beginning this practice. We're lifting the diaphragm up and it's kind of pulling everything here upwards. And another way that you can do this if you're not feeling it so much is to kind of dig your fingertips into the gaps between your ribs and see if you can get those gaps to open as you inhale. Yeah, hi Joni. Good, so feel free to ask questions. This is relatively subtle. Okay, so I'm going to show you what's happening in my belly as I do that. So I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. I'm going to inhale. So when we do a belly breath, the inhale goes into the belly, but this is a diaphragmatic breath where we're lifting the ribs so everything's actually kind of, see how that's sort of hollowing almost a little bit here. Yeah. How's that going, you guys? Is it making sense so far? Yeah, okay. So we're just gonna add one piece to it, which is holding the breath. If this doesn't feel safe to you, if it doesn't feel comfortable, don't worry about it. We can come back to it later. And we'll get maybe a little more dramatic with it sort of as we go. And maybe I'll actually just show you my belly here so you can see what this looks like. So I'm gonna exhale all the way out. This is the kind of shape that we take when we're doing this in yoga. I'm actually just gonna try it standing so you can see what's going on first. So I'm going to exhale all the way out. I'm going to hold the breath out, and then I'm going to try to lift and expand my diaphragm as if I was inhaling. So you can think about this as if I was sealing my airway and trying to inhale, the diaphragm would lift. But because air isn't coming in, what's going to happen instead is I'm going to be suctioning my abdomen in and up. Okay, so it's going to look like this. I'm inhaling, exhaling all the way out, and I'm going to hold. I relax and inhale. Okay. When we do it in this shape, it's a little more dramatic. Okay, we'll come to this. Maybe we won't practice this today. Some of you might find this easier. But we go exhale. Inhale and relax. So this is actually so good for the digestion. It's really good for the psoas. It's good for the diaphragm, and the pelvic floor and the diaphragm are kind of in relationship. So when we start doing this, we can kind of get them back into alignment with each other, which is really helpful postpartum. Okay, so let's give that a try just as you are seated, and then we'll move around a bit. Maybe we'll come back to it. Does that sound okay? Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Okay, so just seated as you are, inhale, find that expansion in the ribs, exhale all the way out, and just if you feel comfortable, hold the breath, push your hands down into your lap, and lift the ribs as if you're inhaling. We're not holding that super long, just exhale and release. Okay, and let's try that one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Hold the breath out, push down into your lap with your hands, and lift the diaphragm. So as if you're inhaling, we're not actually contracting the abdominal muscles here. Relax, and just notice how that felt for you. All right, so let's make our way to our hands and our knees again. And then we're going to move up into some other shapes. So feel free to try a cat and cow here and just notice how it feels. And or a downward dog. So you can walk your hands forward, tuck your toes, lift your hips, and then pedal your heels out. So bending one knee at a time. You can have baby back with you between your hands if you want. And you can give them a little tickle with your hair. So washing your hips from side to side. And I just want you to notice, okay, again, some of you might be a little more comfortable with this. Think of that hyperpressive here. So we're not holding the breath, but just really lift and expand the ribs and see if you can feel the belly kind of drawing in and up. Okay, and then we'll step the right foot forward. If you'd like, you can extend your right leg up and open the hips. You could do that on hands and knees as well. And then step your foot through and put your back knee down. And you might want to put that on some padding. You can also double fold your mat. We're just going to come up into a low lunge. You can have your foot right beside baby if baby's there. Draw your tailbone down, press your hips forward. And then interlace your fingers behind you, hook the thumbs, or again, use your prop. Okay, and then again, think of coming out of the lunge a little. Square the hips, tuck the tailbone, and press the hips forward. And then find that opening in the chest. So don't worry too much about the back bend here. Again, just think more about opening the chest to the sky and just stretching the hands back enough that you feel the stretch in the chest. Okay, beautiful. Inhale, and then gently release the hands to the inside of the front leg. So you might have baby there. Walk your foot out a little bit to the right and turn the toes slightly off on an angle. So we're going to do a little bit of movement here and just get the hip and the hamstring opening. So you might need to lengthen the stance a little bit. We're going to bring the hips forward and bend the knee. And then on the exhale, we're just straightening the leg. It doesn't have to be completely straight. And you can fold forward a little bit as well. So I've got my hands on blocks here. If you happen to have two blocks, you can certainly do it that way. You can also be on fingertips. And this is another one that is relatively entertaining for baby because you're kind of coming close and moving away again. So feel free to interact with baby if you've got one there. And go as slow as you want. So especially if it's been a while since you've been in a shape like this, feel free to pause and breathe. If you're feeling like, ooh, yeah, that's the spot and I want to stay in it, that's perfect. If it's feeling really good to just come in and out, that's great as well. This type of movement, I think of sometimes like oiling the joints, like getting some lubrication into the joints. And I find that psoas just needs so much attention. Yeah. Good. Okay, beautiful. And then we'll release. So you can come kind of through hands and knees, just stepping that foot back. And then maybe you're in cat and cow, or maybe you're back in your downward dog. Noticing how that feels in the two sides. Again, maybe playing a little bit with drawing the belly in and up, expanding the diaphragm. And then when you're ready, left leg might extend up. It doesn't have to, just if that feels good. And stepping the foot forward. patting the knee if you need to. And again, you can double fold your mat is often a useful way to do that. Come on up. Square the hips. Hook the thumbs or interlace fingers or hold your prop. Any of those are great. Come out of the lunge a little, draw a tailbone down, press the hips forward, and then open the chest. And again, think less about trying to get really deep into the lunge and more about lifting your heart up. Awesome. Inhale, and then gently release the hands down to the inside of the front leg. Walk your left foot out a little bit. Turn the toes out. You might walk the stance a little bit longer, and then you can come in and out. So with or without the blocks is perfect. Just dipping in as far as your hips want to go, and then straightening your leg a bit, and maybe folding down. So don't worry about what this looks like. So this is a lot of what we were talking about before class. Like in the postpartum period, we have this idea of like, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. This is what my body is supposed to be able to do. This is how much I'm supposed to be doing yoga or whatever it is. Part of our practice is just, this is where I am today. This is how my body feels today. And that is okay. And I don't need to judge it. I'm going to serve where I actually am instead of where I think I'm supposed to be, right? So go slow, go faster, pause in a place if you want, or keep moving. You can even close your eyes. Sometimes that's helpful. If you need your eyes for baby, keep them open. But if you don't, you can close your eyes and just see how much you can feel what's going on in your body. Awesome. And then we'll gently release when you're ready, coming back to your hands and your knees or your downward dog or your child's pose. Okay, or your diaper change, whatever's happening. Okay, so from here, I just want to do one pose that is standing. So you can walk your feet towards your hands and then come up to standing. So a way that I used to do this with Grant, I'd widen my feet apart, bend my knees almost down to a squat. So you want to be really careful with your back here. And then you can gather up baby and really practice coming up with a nice strong spine. And you can of course pretend if you don't have baby. I know we all do lots of lifting even with older kiddos. Okay, so we're gonna make our way to a wall and I'd love for you to have your hands free for this. So especially if you have baby, we can do a reverse of that, ergonomic putting baby down. So feet wide, toes can turn out a little. Sinking the hips down, core is strong, back is long, and gently place. And then come back up that same way so that you're nice and strong in the legs. That's good for the glutes too. Yeah. Okay, so for this one, you need a prop. It could be a wall, back of a chair, back of a couch. Crib is like the perfect height for this. Stroller handles, perfect height for this. Okay, you can do this kind of on the go. I find this is so nice for the back. And the stroller or the crib actually works a little better than the wall, but I'll show you what this looks like. It's very simple. So you're just gonna put your hands. You can start kind of chest height and you might adjust it. And you're just gonna walk back. Feet can be as wide as is comfortable, knees a little bent. It's a bit like downward dog, but you're just gonna melt your heart. And I find if you have a surface to put your hands on, you can kind of grip there and get even a little bit more traction in the spine. Head can be relaxed, knees at least a little bent. And then we'll lift the chest, walk back up. Okay, while we're at the wall, place your left hand on the wall and turn to face the side. If you don't have a wall, no problem. You're just gonna do it in the air, which is what I'm gonna do as well. Okay, so we've got the hand on the wall if you have a wall to give you a little bit of feedback. If not, we're just pretending. Shoulders down the back, and then we're gonna try to keep the hand where it is and just turn away a little bit. So you get this stretch all along the forearm and into the inner chest. And just breathing there. Try to breathe into your diaphragm like we talked about before. And the fingers are turned back. So it's like the hand is a little flexed. Yeah. Good. And then gently release so you can turn back to the wall and just relax. Take a moment to feel the difference in the two sides. Yeah, you can also do that kind of in a doorway if you want. Have your hand there. Okay, let's try that on the other side. So your opposite hand, this is my right hand, just whatever your second side is, goes out onto the wall or into the air, and the fingers are turned back, thumb up. Pull the shoulders down the back. Try to keep your hand where it is and just gently turn away until you feel that little bit of a stretch into the chest. And for me, this is absolutely my forearm, which if you're doing a lot of like holding, the wrists and forearms can get really tired. And then gently release that, come back through center, let your hands relax and see what your body wants to do. So it might want to fidget a little bit, it might want to wobble a little bit. Okay, I think we have just enough time left for everything I want to do. It's always so much. Okay, so we're going to come back to our mats and we're going to lay down. If you've got your little person with you, maybe they'll lie down beside you and you can just kind of keep a hand on them, keep them entertained that way. Find a little bit of a natural curve into your lower back. And the knees are together and they're just slightly pointed down away from your body. So this is, for me, is like magic for the SI joints, really important for me for sacral health. And when we strengthen the outer glutes, we're also supporting the pelvic floor to let go. Okay, so flare the feet. We're just going to start with a simple clamshell. So the knees open like a book and then they close. This is a great sneaky one that you can do just when you're hanging out on the floor with the baby. If you have a baby that young. Babies love it like dogs. Finnegan's around here somewhere. They love it when you're on the ground with them, when you're at their level, right? You can just sneak in a few clamshells while you're doing that. This is a good one to do every day if you can. Okay, and then we're just going to reverse it. So knees together, feet separate. So the foot lifts and you've got this internal rotation of the leg. And then you're just going to lift and lower like a little chicken wing. Yeah, so this might feel a little bit harder. You might feel a little bit more work in the outer hip there. Yeah. Good. So one of the things I wanted to mention for this practice as well, you don't need to go to your absolute max of work to get the benefit, okay? You don't need to do the same amount of reps that I'm doing. You want to go to the place where you feel like you're fatiguing, and that's where your muscles are going to start to strengthen. Okay, doing that gently and frequently is going to be so much more effective than going way past your edge and being super sore the next day. Okay, and then let's relax, take a soft fist, and just pad out the outer hip. So good. Okay. Draw your knees in a little bit closer. You can put a prop in between them if you like. Feet may come out a little bit. We're just going to take a simple supine twist, but this again, I love this for the chest. So you're just going to lay down, take that top arm, left arm, and just roll it open into your twist. I didn't miss twist that much when I was pregnant, but man, do I love them now. I find they're so great. So continuing to breathe into your belly and maybe exploring a little bit of that diaphragmatic breathing. See if you can kind of lift your ribs up and back. Good. And then you can roll back to the place where you started, and then we'll just flip over to the other side. So depending on your kiddo, if you have one with you, you might kind of just crawl over to the other side if kiddo's happy staying where they are, or you can move them around if you want. And then just coming to that second side, knees are pointing slightly down, natural curve in the lower back. Core could be very gently engaged, but it doesn't have to be overly so. And then we're just gonna clamshell. So feet are flared, that helps to keep the core engaged. And we're just opening and closing the legs. So one of the things about this, when we're practicing with the kid, if you're kind of like in a safe space where they can kind of explore around and you can just be on the floor with them doing your thing, you don't have to count. You can just feel. When is that place where I start to feel like, okay, yeah, I'm getting some fatigue. Okay, so don't get overly worried about doing exactly the right number of this stuff if you're doing it on your own. Just kind of do what's available. Okay, and then we'll flip it. So lifting up the foot, and then we do our little chicken wing. A little bit different, yeah. And of course, I know for some of you, this practice is going to be, this is your time, right, to be in your body. And that's perfect as well. You don't necessarily have to do any of this at home. You're already at home, but you know, when we're not in class together. We do what we can is a big what's the word, tagline, or like a phrase that I go to a lot. We just do what we can. Awesome. Okay, and then relax, take that soft fist and just pat out gently. Okay, and then hug the knees in a little bit closer. Feet might move away a bit, so you've kind of got this 90-degree angle. You can adjust that for what works for you, and feel free to put something between your knees. And then extend out that bottom arm. Reach up the top one and take your nice simple supine twist. Allowing the chest to open. You could rock your head from side to side or look right. You need to keep your eyes on your small person. That's fine too. Okay, awesome. And then roll onto your back, please. And let's release the hips. So you can take your right ankle onto your left thigh, hold on to the back of your left thigh and gently draw in. So this is thread the needle, really nice for opening the hips after doing that hip strengthening. This can be really good for the SI joints as well. Depending on the heaviness of your baby, what I used to do sometimes with Grant is kind of sit him on my shin. So I was just holding him like this, and I'd rock him a little from side to side. So it required obviously a little more concentration and sort of holding, but he liked that. He's too squirmy for it now, but there was a time when he liked it. And then we'll gently let that go and switch sides. So you might want to rock the knees from side to side or shake out the legs. And I've just got my imaginary baby sitting on my ribs here. And then you can take left ankle to right thigh, draw that in. If you're comfortable in this pose, again, if you've got that kiddo with you and they're little enough for you to do this, you can put them on your shin. Just keep your feet nice and active. Maybe rock a little from side to side. If kiddo's not a factor, you can just hold the back of the leg. If your hips are feeling quite tight, just be gentle with it. You could keep your right foot on the floor or prop underneath your hips. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll gently let that go. You can place your feet on the floor and wash your hips from, knees from side to side. And we're gonna make our way into Shavasana, and I'm gonna offer that you stay in it just a couple minutes over time. But if you need to go, please honor that, okay? So feel free to take your Shavasana however you like it. If you do have a bolster, it might be really nice to take it around behind your back. And for this variation, you could have it not too close to your hips. So it's a little bit, the bottom edge of it is more towards the bottoms of your shoulder blades. And then you can extend your legs out. And I'll just invite you to place your hands again on or near your womb. And when I say to place your hands on that spot, it doesn't matter if you know sort of exactly where it is anatomically, think more so energetically. A lot of us can really feel this area. And just breathe down into that spot, allowing the shoulders to soften, allowing the jaw to soften. And just receiving the work of our practice today. And again, if you're with kiddo, Shavasana may not be realistic. That's totally fine. You can have them sitting on your lap and just breathe with them. But if you do have the space to just be in your own body and in your own breath, just give yourself full permission to be in that space. Let's take a moment to notice how you're feeling and how you're experiencing your Shavasana. I know for some of you, this is probably the first one in a while. Notice how easy it is or hard to receive this moment of rest. And if your little one is a part of that, that's perfect and beautiful. Allow them to be a part of it. You can begin to deepen your breath. Noticing that if you'd like to stay and you have the time and the space to do that, stay in your Shavasana all day if you need to, okay? Otherwise, we can start to move, maybe stretch. Gather in the knees. Roll to one side. And then make your way up to a seat. You can place your hands over top of your heart, or if it feels right, place your hands over top of your womb or baby as needed. And just take a moment to honor and acknowledge the work that it took for you to be in your practice today, the work that it took for you to create the space for yourself. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga, and to honor the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. And thank you for sharing that with me.